make some pretty cool paper cutout effects with objects that are a little more complex than the wiggly lines and shapes we were doing last time. So here's an example of one I created. I actually created this one first, trying to figure out how to do this. And then I created this one and got a little bit better. But this is sort of a paper cutout of mountains. I was just doing a search online here to look at different ideas. And I really liked this one. And so I started fiddling around to try and figure out how I could recreate it. So let me show you how I did this. I'm going to just create a 3x3 space to work in. And the first thing I did was I drew the sort of the background, which becomes the sky. So I'm going to just hold shift and draw a circle. And that'll be my sky. I'll just try and roughly center that on the page. And then we'll do the sun. So again, I'm going to go and pick a color for my sun. You guys can pick whatever colors you want. You don't need to use the same colors I'm using. And I'll draw the sun. I'm going to sort of draw it off to the right. Of course, you could draw it first and then change the color afterwards if you want. All right, so now I'm going to draw a series of mountains that sort of pile up on top of each other. And when I draw my layers, you'll notice that the layer order matters, because when it comes to dropping the shadow and all that sort of thing. So we want to draw the furthest away mountain first. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use my pen tool for the first one. Actually, no, I'll use, I lied. I'll use my rectangle tool. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle like this. I'm going to make sure it goes to the bottom of my circle. And then I'm going to change its color. And we'll try maybe, what color will we try? You know what, I'm going to just use my dropper tool and I'm going to select the same color that this is, and then I'm going to change it from here by double clicking. And maybe I'll try like a slightly more orange version of that color. I don't like that. It's too similar to the background, so I'll just come in here and fiddle around a bit more. Maybe lighter this way. Let's see. I still don't like it. I'm being picky. All right, I'll just choose that for now. We can always change the color afterwards. All right, I'm going to do my path finder stuff, or sorry, my adding anchor points thing. So I'm going to use my white arrow. I'm going to say edit and go to, sorry, object, path, and add anchor points. And then I'm going to click an anchor point and click it again. I'm going to make the furthest away mountain sort of the most jagged one. Maybe I'll have that end down here. And then I'll add some anchor points, object, path, add anchor points. And another time, object, path, add anchor points. Oops, that happened. Undo. And maybe I'll round out some of these anchor points, see what it looks like. So I'll click that one, round it out. I could stretch it if I wanted to. Round that one out too. And I'll round that one out. And this one. And this one. And I'll move a couple more over here and make it look more like a mountain. And I'll round that one as well. Okay, so there's my first mountain. Now I'm going to add a second one. I'm just going to use the pen tool for this one. So click my pen. And here we go. Now we want to make sure it goes to the bottom of this. We're going to build a frame around this whole thing at the very end, and I'll show you how to do that. But so we'll make sure it comes up here and down, and then the bottom part doesn't matter that much because it'll be covered up. All right, so there's no fill in this object, so we'll go up here and we'll pick a fill. That's the same as the other color. Let's try this one. There we go. Okay, and you could carry on and create as many layers as you want. But what we're going to do now is create the outside paper layer. And to do that, I'm going to start by just drawing one big square over the entire thing. And I'm going to turn it off momentarily. Now I'm going to click on this circle. I'm going to copy it. This is maybe the only tricky part of this for now. Copy. And now I'm going to bring this layer back in. I'm going to change its color by clicking it and changing it to the color white. Or if you want, just off-white. Might look cool too. Now check this out. I'm going to do this. Edit, paste in place. And here's that big orange circle from the start. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to click our paper layer. And then I'm going to say object, group, effect, pathfinder, and subtract. As long as the layers are in the right order, the two subtract from each other and it sort of creates a nice frame. All right, I'm going to turn off my frame for a sec, which is this one. Okay. I could always rename that to frame if I wanted to help me remember, just by double clicking and changing the name. So I've turned it off for a sec. What we're going to do now is we're going to add in the drop shadows. So let's click here on our first mountain. We'll say object and sorry, no, I'm wrong. Effect, stylize, drop shadow. And I found that these settings work pretty well, but you can play around with them and choose what works best for you. You can change the opacity a little bit. Actually, I think I'll turn that down. Let's go to 50%. But I like these settings, and I'm going to say OK. And then I'll click my next layer back, and I'll do the same thing. Effect, stylize, and drop shadow. And the same settings should still be there. We'll do the sun, because we're trying to make it look like it's layers of paper. Effect, stylize, drop shadow. And we don't need to do it to the last one because it's not going to cast a shadow on anything. Okay, so we'll bring our frame back now and click the frame, and then we'll do it to the frame as well. Effect, stylize, drop shadow, and okay. And now it casts a shadow inside. So you can do all sorts of cool things. You could add tiny trees to these mountains if you wanted. You could put a cloud in the sky that's in front of all of them if you wanted to. Just with a pen, there's a whole bunch of cool ideas. Let's try a cloud. I don't know if it'll look good, but let's try it. Here's a cloud, and effect. Do the same thing. Effect, stylize, and drop shadow. So it looks kind of cool. That's not bad, actually. You can move that around, put it wherever you want. Squash it a bit, and basically play around and make it unique and your own. And that is your mission for today. Create something like mountains, but like a more interesting paper craft. So there is my most recent one that we just made now, and here's the one I made a few minutes ago to practice. And here's the one I made yesterday, which was cool too, but I kind of like the way these ones have turned out better. So have fun, play around, and enjoy.